Namaste, Dandavat Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Mahārāja, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 22, Text 30. Indriyar Vishayak Shrishtar Akshiptam Dhyayatam Mana Chaitanam Harate Buddhe Stambastoyam Ivha Hradat. When one's mind and senses are attracted to sense objects for enjoyment, the mind becomes agitated. As a result of continually thinking of sense objects, one's real consciousness almost becomes lost, like the water in a lake that is gradually sucked up by the big grass straws on its bank. Purport. In this verse, it is very nicely explained how our original consciousness becomes polluted, and we gradually become almost completely forgetful of our relationship with the Supreme Lord. In a previous verse, it is recommended that we should always keep in touch with the devotional service of the Lord, so that the blazing fire of devotional service can gradually burn into ashes material desires, and we can become liberated from the repetition of birth and death. This is also how we can indirectly keep our staunch faith in the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the mind is allowed to think of sense gratification continuously, it becomes the cause of our material bondage. If our mind is simply filled with sense gratification, even though we want Krishna consciousness, by continuous practice we cannot forget the subject matter of sense gratification. If one takes up the sannyas order of life but is not able to control the mind, he will think of objects of sense gratification, namely family, society, expensive house, etc. Even though he goes to the Himalayas or the forest, his mind will continue thinking of the objects of sense gratification. In this way, gradually one's intelligence will be affected. When intelligence is affected, one loses his original taste for Krishna consciousness. The example given here is very appropriate. If a big lake is covered all around by long kusa grass, just like columns, the waters dry up. Similarly, when the big columns of material desire increase, the clear water of consciousness is dried up. Therefore, these columns of kusa grass should be cut or thrown away from the very beginning. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed that if from the very beginning we do not take care of unwanted grass in the paddy fields, the fertilizing agents or water will be used by them, and the paddy plants will dry up. The material desire for sense enjoyment is the cause of our fall down in this material world, and thus we suffer from the threefold miseries and continuous birth, death, old age, and disease. However, if we turn our desires toward the transcendental loving service of the Lord, our desires become purified. We cannot kill desires. We have to purify them of different designations. If we constantly think of being a member of a particular nation, society, or family, and continuously think about them, we become very strongly entangled in the conditioned life of birth and death. But if our desires are applied to the service of the Lord, they become purified, and thus we become immediately freed from material contamination. Text 31. Prasyatyanu chitam Gyanha Brahmasa Smriti Kshaye Tarodham Kavaya Prahor Atma Pavanam Atmana. When one deviates from his original consciousness, he loses the capacity to remember his previous position or recognize his present one. When remembrance is lost, all knowledge acquired is based on a false foundation. When this occurs, learned scholars consider that the soul is lost. Purport. The living entity or the soul is ever existing and eternal. It cannot be lost, but learned scholars say that it is lost when actual knowledge is not working. That is the difference between animals and human beings. According to less intelligent philosophers, animals have no soul, but factually animals have souls. Due to the animals' gross ignorance, however, it appears that they have lost their souls. Without the soul, a body cannot move. That is the difference between a living body and a dead body. When the soul is out of the body is called dead. The soul is said to be lost when there is no longer proper knowledge exhibited. Our consciousness is misguided and one is put into the material atmosphere, which pollutes the original consciousness. One thinks that he is a product of the material elements, thus one loses his real remembrance of his position as part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just as a man who sleeps forgets himself. In this way, when the activities of proper consciousness are checked, all the activities of the lost soul are performed on false basis. At the present moment, human civilization is acting on a false platform of bodily identification. Therefore, it can be said that the people of the present age have lost their souls, and in this respect, they are no better than animals. Text 32. Natha parataro loke pumsasvarta vyatikraman yad adhyan yasya preyastvam atmanasvavatikramat. There is no stronger obstruction to one's self-interest than thinking the subject matters to be more pleasing. There is no stronger obstruction to one's self-interest than thinking other subject matters to be more pleasing than one's self-realization. Dandavat pranamo Devi.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, same to you. Happy Christmas.
Purport. Human life is especially meant for self-realization. Self refers to the super-self and the individual self. The Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entity. When, however, one becomes more interested in the body and bodily sense gratification, he creates for himself obstructions on the path of self-realization. By the influence of Maya, one becomes more interested in sense gratification, which is prohibited in this world for those interested in self-realization. Instead of becoming interested in sense gratification, one should divert his activities to satisfy the senses of the Supreme Soul. Anything performed contrary to this principle is certainly against one's self-interest. Text 33. Arthendriyartha vidyanam sarvartha panavonurnam brahmsito jnana vigyanad yinha vishati mukyatam. For human society, constantly thinking of how to earn money and apply it for sense gratification brings about the destruction of everyone's interests. When one becomes devoid of knowledge and devotional service, he enters into species of life like those of trees and stones. Purport. Gyan, or knowledge, means to understand one's constitutional position, And Vigyan refers to practical application of that knowledge in life. In the human form of life, one should come to the position of Gyan and Vigyan. But if despite this great opportunity, one does not develop knowledge and practical application of knowledge through the help of a spiritual master and the Shastras, in other words, if one misuses this opportunity, then in the next life he is sure to be born in a species of non-moving living entities. Non-moving living entities include hills, mountains, trees, plants, etc. This stage of life is called punyatam, or mukyatam, namely making all activities zero. Philosophers who support stopping all activities are called sunyavadi. By nature's own way, our activities are to be gradually diverted to devotional service. But there are philosophers who, instead of purifying their activities, try to make everything zero or void of all activities. This lack of activity is represented by the trees and the hills. This is a kind of punishment inflicted by the laws of nature. If we do not properly execute our mission of life in self-realization, nature's punishment will render us inactive by putting us in the form of trees and hills. Therefore, activities directed toward sense gratification are condemned herein. One who is constantly thinking of activities to earn money and gratify the senses is following a path which is suicidal. Factually, all human society is following this path. Some way or other, people are determined to earn money or get money by begging, borrowing, or stealing, and applying that for sense gratification. Such a civilization is the greatest obstacle in the path of self-realization. Namaste Anderji. Text 34. Nakoryat karhichit sangam tamastivram titirishu dharmartha kama mokshanam yad atyanta vigatakam. Those who strongly desire to cross the ocean of nescience must not associate with the modes of ignorance, for hedonistic activities are the greatest obstructions to realization of religious principles, economic development, regulated sense gratification, and at last, liberation. Purport. The four principles of life allow one to live according to religious principles, to earn money according to one's position in society, to allow the senses to enjoy the sense objects according to regulations, and to progress along the path of liberation from this material attachment. As long as the body is there, it is not possible to become completely free from all these material interests. It is not, however, recommended that one act only for the sense gratification and earn money for that purpose only, sacrificing all religious principles. At the present moment, human civilization does not care for religious principles. It is, however, greatly interested in economic development without religious principles. For instance, in a slaughterhouse, the butchers certainly get money easily, but such business is not based on religious principles. Similarly, there are many nightclubs for sense gratification and brothels for sex. Sex, of course, is allowed in married life, but prostitution is prohibited because all our activities are ultimately aimed at liberation, at freedom from the clutches of material existence. Similarly, although the government may license liquor shops, this does not mean that liquor shops should be opened unrestrictedly and illicit liquor smuggled. Licensing is meant for restricting. No one has to take a license for sugar, wheat, or milk because there is no need to restrict these things. In other words, it is advised that one not act in a way that will obstruct the regular process of advancement in spiritual life and liberation. The Vedic process of sense gratification is therefore planned in such a way that one can economically develop and enjoy sense gratification, yet ultimately attain liberation. Vedic civilization offers us all knowledge in the Shastras, and if we live a regulated life under the direction of Shastras and Guru, all our material desires will be fulfilled. At the same time, we will be able to go forward to liberation. Text 35. Tatrapi moksha evarta atyanti kata yeshyate trivargyorto yato nityam kritanta bhaya samyuta. Out of the four principles, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, liberation has to be taken very seriously. The other three are subject to destruction by the stringent law of nature, death. Purport. Moksha or liberation has to be taken very seriously, even at the sacrifice of the other three items. As advised by Sutta Goswami in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, religious principles are not based on success in economic development. Because we are very attached to sense gratification, we go to God, to the temple or the churches, for some economic reasons. Then again, economic development does not mean sense gratification. Everything should be adjusted in such a way that we attain liberation. Therefore, in this verse, liberation, moksha, is stressed. The other three items are material and therefore subject to destruction. Even if somehow we accumulate a great bank balance in this life and possess many material things, everything will be finished with death. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that death is the supreme personality of Godhead, who ultimately takes away everything acquired by the materialistic person. Foolishly, we do not care for this. Foolishly, we are not afraid of death, nor do we consider that death will take away everything acquired by the process of dharma, artha, and kama. By dharma, or pious activities, we may be elevated to the heavenly planets, but this does not mean freedom from the clutches of birth, death, old age, and disease. The purport is that we can sacrifice our interests in trivargya, religious principles, economic development, and sense gratification. But we cannot sacrifice the cause of liberation. Regarding liberation, it is stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Tyaktva deham punar janmanaiti. Liberation means that after giving up his body, one does not have to accept another material body. To the impersonalists, liberation means merging into the existence of impersonal Brahman. But factually, this is not moksha, because one has to again fall down into this material world from that impersonal position. One should therefore seek the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage in his devotional service. That is real liberation. The conclusion is that we should not stress pious activities, economic development, and sense gratification,
I'm not quite sure
but
how to
should
help you with
concern
that.
ourselves with approaching Lord Vishnu and his spiritual planets, of which the topmost is Goloka Vrindavan, where Lord Krishna lives. Therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement is the greatest gift for persons who are actually desiring liberation. And thus ends our reading for today. We'll continue from text 36 on Friday. Were there any comments, questions, or contributions from the assembled devotees? No. So I'll just briefly say that we're very happy to be able to read Srimad Bhagavatam this morning in the presence of the assembled devotees on Christmas Day, the birthday of Lord Jesus Christ. Srila Govinda Maharaj has expressed sincere appreciation of the Vaishnav qualities that Lord Christ had, how much humility he had, how much tolerance he had, how much abuse he was accepting from others in order to try to give them an opportunity at spiritual life and some connection with God through love. And also how much respect he was giving to everyone else, even though they were not giving that respect to him. So, of course, we know that these are the three main Vaishnava qualities that Mahaprabhu told in his Shikshastakam, Trunadupi Sunichena, Tarorapi Suhishnuna, Amanina Manadena, Kirtaniya Sadahari, that a Vaishnav or someone who wants to chant the holy name should be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, and giving all respect to others without expecting it in return. And many devotees know of that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said this, but when they talk about it, they kind of reduce it to just humility, tolerance, and respect. But when Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj discusses this principle, he always emphasizes that Mahaprabhu didn't just say humility, tolerance, and respect. He said, be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. So Mahaprabhu emphasized even more humble than the grass or more tolerant than a tree. So what does he actually mean by that? You know, how much emphasis Mahaprabhu was really putting on these qualities, many people overlook. Anyhow, so Srila Govinda Maharaj acknowledged that Jesus Christ actually had these qualities. And so we honor him very much, and we hope that by his grace and by the grace of all the Vaishnavas, maybe we can have 1% of that in our life, and we can learn how to chant the holy name properly with these qualities instead of chanting it with so many offenses. And I'm only speaking of myself, I'm preaching to myself here. So I feel very blessed to have the association of the devotees and to read this Bhagavatam on today and every day. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Guru Dev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees. Sama Bhaktiveda Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Nrsimhapuri Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ju Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Giri Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai. Shyam Kund Radha Kund Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Scientific Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Princeton Bhaktivedanta Institute Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Institute Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Nitai Gauda Premanandi Hari
Hari Bol.
Jai Shamati Uma Devi Dasi Ki Jai.
Jai
Jai
Guru.
Sripad Anders Ji Ki Jai.
Jai. Sripad Krishna Keshav Prabhu Ji ki Jai.
Jai Jai. My initiated name is Aditi Nandana Das.
Sadika Nandana Das.
Aditi
Oh,
Nandana
Aditi.
Das.
Aditi Nandana Das.
Aditi
Yeah.
Nandana Das. I did not know, Prabhu. Jai.
No, that's
Prabhu
fine.
Ji ki Jai.
Yes,
And
Aditi Nandana
now
Prabhu Ki
Bhagavatam
Jai.
start 3-year finish Maharaj, Prabhuji now.
What is that?
From December. Bhagavatam you start, or 3-year finish. 3 year, 3 days.
Oh, when we started.
Yeah.
Oh, I
2021
didn't.
December you start. Yeah.
Oh, Jai, I didn't know that, Didi. Thank you. So,
Amazing.
Aditi Nandana Prabhu, are you a disciple of Srila Govinda Maharaj?
Yeah, I joined
Prabhupada?
1986. I joined in Chaitanya Saraswat Mat. In February, Gopanima got initiated. That was, I think, there must have been maybe the first time Srila Govinda Maharaj initiated on behalf of Srila Sridhara Maharaj. And he was, I was sitting there when Srila Sridhara Maharaj said that if you want to take initiation, you take from Govinda Maharaj. That's as well as good as taking from me. And for those who can't appreciate this particular situation with Srila Govinda Maharaj, I distance myself from them, he said. I sat right in front of him when he said that, and then he initiated about 70 people that morning, Gopanim 1986. It was incredible, actually.
Jai.
Srila Sridhar Maharaj in his glories, and Srila Govinda Maharaj, he had to be pushed into the chair of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. He literally had to be gripped and entered into it, pretty much, because he was so hesitant and so, well, he was just extremely mindful about the representation of that chair. He said, I know the value of the chair, he said. It's a very heavy chair, you know. How can you take the chair of Srila Sridhar Maharaj? I mean, and Srila Govinda Maharaj was made, Guru Maharaj said to him, if you don't take sannyas right now, he said, in October, I'll leave my body immediately, he said. So Govinda Maharaj tried to avoid sort of taking that helm, if you like, the responsibility. But eventually he was obviously, by that divine affection and the necessity for the mat and whatnot, he was made to do so. And then Srila Sridhar Maharaj stayed for another 2.5 years to ensure that Srila Govinda Maharaj was legally the full sole proprietor of the mat, according to Indian law, you know. So yeah, he started initiating then. But at that time, we all were told, sort of, stupid as we are, with little real understanding, that we're all disciples of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And then it sort of slipped through that the initiation is by Srila Govinda Maharaj, But Govinda Maharaj always said, this is on behalf of Srila Guru Maharaj, like all great gurus do, they do the telescopic connection to their previous gurus in the Sampradaya, back to Krishna. So they're all servants of the servants of the servants, perfectly.
Yes.
We're dealing with the infinite here. It's every day. It's just what you call it. It's like, for me at least, it's just I can't even begin to comprehend what this is. This Krishna consciousness. I'm just as fallen now as I was, 45 years ago. Just as lost. But having the association is everything, probably, The word of Bhagavatam and the association of devotees is the only, and it's such a gift and such a wonderful, it's a reflection of reality that we couldn't comprehend from our previous life, wherever we were.
Yes, both both the Shastra and Guru Parampara are special in that way that they're descending, right? The the finite souls have no capacity to reach the infinite in an ascending way. We can't do it from our own side because being finite means we're not infinite. So how could we possibly take the infinite from our finite power? It's not possible. But because the finite is a part of the infinite can reveal itself to the finite as a part of itself. It can reveal itself. The infinite has that power. And so this Shastra, like you're saying, Bhagavatam, is giving that perspective, is revelation. And so is Guru Parampara. As you mentioned, Guru Parampara is disciplic succession starting from Krishna, as he tells in Gita to Arjuna. And it's only through that revelation, that descending knowledge, that we have any real connection to the absolute. Otherwise, it's just in our head. So many people are, imagining
It's the
things.
property. It's the property copyrighted by the infinite in the form of Sri Krishna and his associates. The full force of the infinite. It's their realm, and we're kind of lodged in a realm outside that, which is called Maya, basically, where there are one distinctive difference, and that is there is no God, basically. It's sort of a different mode here, with a very shadow-like sort of representation, rather, of reality. That's it, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, but Maya itself is not outside the absolute, Maya is Krishna's energy, this Bahiranga Shaktis.
Yeah.
It's not like Maya, the material world is not something different than God. It's a form of God.
It's a possibility to understand the environment as without its intrinsic finer and original quality and activities as such. It's just sort of saying that, the environment is not centered around God and God's will and the Lord and his activities and pastimes and abiding and associates. It's not like that. So that's a possibility of seeing the environment, but it ain't true because it's part of the infinite. So it has to be supplying that necessary quality that the Lord is looking for. It's as simple as, in that sense. Yeah.
Yes, that's what makes it the illusion. Like you're saying, the illusion. It's the possibility is there. If we want to, we can see the world for us and not for God. We have that potential to see it like that, but it's an illusion because that's we can't, we are not the source of our own fulfillment. We always are seeking fulfillment outside of us in the world, in the material world. We think it's either coming through, like these shlokas in Bhagavatam are saying, the Purusharthas, either through Dharma, Kama, Artha, or Moksha, right? We're thinking either through monetary development, our satisfaction will come, or through religious principles, the satisfaction will come. And it's always something outside of ourselves. So we're chasing it like a carrot on the stick. You keep running after the carrot, but it's on the stick and you can never actually grab it. So that potential is there, like you said, but it's an illusion and it will never actually get that eternal satisfaction or that permanent satisfaction from that.
Correct. That's exactly how it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's why the living representative, that Guru Parampara, as it continues to exist in this world even today, Guru Parampara is still here in this world, and they have given us some potential to leave that illusion even while we're living in this world. Not that we have to wait until the afterlife. That's the beautiful thing about this Krishna consciousness is our consciousness can change here in this very lifetime, in this very moment, and we can see things properly adjusted. So this is inconceivably merciful.
Exactly, yeah, for real. And that is the actual amazing property of the Vaishnava, and they express that when you read Prabhupada's purports, Govinda Maharaj, he said that, you forced Krishna to allow you that type of independence that, in a sense, isn't very healthy for you. And then you hear Prabhupada say, since time immemorial, you've been subjected to this illusory experience, birth, death, old age, and disease. So you're traversing literally 8.4 million species. You hear all these Bhagavatas, the Mahabhagavatas, and their insights and their explanations and reflection, and you realize that they are living in a different flow. They're not under the cosh as a conditioned soul at all. and how they connect things and observe things and experience things, they are infinitely better off in that realm. You sort of, you know, that this is real, the genuine and the perfect is coming through Sri Guru, you know. And I suppose that's wonderful that we have been appearing somehow or another in times where this is happening. And our hope is that we can somehow or another log into that and surrender ourselves there and feel the touch of that to some extent and go with that. That would be good for us. Taking the name, bowing down, not trying to upset too many virtuous souls, you know, on the way, etc. And try humbly and sincerely as best as possible, you know. Sadhana and etc.
Yes, Prabhu. Jai Sripad Aditi Nandana Prabhu ki jai. Jai
Jai.
Srimati Uma Devi Dasi ki jai.
Right.
Jai.
Haribo, my humble Dandavat Pranam.
Jai Prabhu. See you again soon. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
Hare
Dhanavad.
Krishna.